Whatever you think men talk about behind closed doors just to other men, you're wrong.
I'm not really sure where the surprise would be at all with this, that this happens, that men would speak this way about women, about, let's just cut through it. By and large, how men talk about anything that is not considered man in terms of gender, sexuality, anything, um, and certainly over the last several hundred years, if not thousand years more, it's been white men, right? And so, and I can absolutely speak my truth around that. I was a piece of shit, and I said horrible things about women, like degrading, misogynistic stuff, because it was all under the guise of, well, we're just being boys, right? Well, well, yeah, actually, yeah, we were being boys. We weren't being men. We didn't have any integrity. We thought that as long as, I'll speak for myself, I know that I thought that it's like, well, as long as we're just talking amongst ourselves, then it's fine. Well, as it turns out, no, it's not. Um, no one should be degraded in any types of forms or languages, especially not when it becomes kind of that mob mentality that he was talking about. And it is. I mean, it's frightening to think about that as a reality, but it shouldn't be surprising. What to me is a little bit surprising, and I mean, I really don't know your content, so I really can't speak to this at any real length. The one thing that hearing you talk about that, which seemed more inflammatory than anything, was the fact that not just the all men thing, because sure, whatever. I mean, I'm a part of men, so yeah, all of us. Uh, I absolutely am committed to, and maybe it's just that I've gotten older and my circles have gotten smaller and changed, that I don't choose to be around people who are like that. And I'm very committed to not being. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm still a man. What is really important, and I hope that this is something that you discuss in other videos or responded to specific to this. I haven't looked through the entire thread and all your comments, but the idea of, okay, well, guess what? You're a man now, so you're a part of it. So you get to either shit on us, and in doing so, essentially say, well, I don't do that. Or, and I'm pretty sure you're with me on this, we get to do it differently, and we get to, when we're in those spaces, when we're in places where conversations like that are happening and men are speaking out about women and bantering in ways that would be considered bullshit locker room talk, right? Or just in ways that are demeaning and degrading and dehumanizing and objectifying and disgusting. We call each other out. This video just seemed a lot of just talking about, yeah, men are shitty. Okay. Is that the conversation we want to continue to have? Because that's not actually how shit's going to change. We need to talk about how, okay, well, this happened, and here's how I approached this. I, a male friend said something really debasing about a woman that we were with, and I directly looked him in the eyes and said, don't fucking do that, because that's not how you speak to women. That's not how you speak about women. Not if you want to be around me. And I'm certainly going to be very happy to let them know what type of piece of shit you are. So, do we want to try that again? And I feel like if we're not doing that piece and assertively and potentially aggressively holding one another accountable to making changes like that, simply just talking about the idea of men being shitty, I don't think anyone's really unclear anymore. So, I mean, I'd love for the conversation to be more about, yes, that's true, and here's how we're doing it differently. Here's what change looks like. Because, I mean, that level of ownership, accountability, and integrity around what that is isn't exclusively masculine, but it certainly is something that men need to really start to own toward one another around that, so that things like that don't happen. And I'm also not in any way discounting the idea that, I mean, I don't know what your situation was, and like, I know how it can be really scary. I mean, I'm older, and like, things being confrontational with people or in larger groups when I'm saying something that they're not going to like, especially when it's something that will make them defensive or feel guilt or shame or just question the ways that they think, it's a really fucking hard thing to do. So I'm in no way discounting that. And I mean, I'd like to think that that was a part of what that story was and just didn't share it in that video. And I think that that's a really important part to share, because even in that moment of, I mean, whether or not that's what happened, if it's not what happened, talk about what that is, because that's also hard. I mean, that was something that I struggled with for years. It's just the idea of, well, I mean, I know it's not right, but it's like, I don't want to stand up to like a whole bunch of people because then they're not going to like me. I don't really fucking care if people who think like that don't like me anymore. And I think that that is a really big place where we as men can stand up and be different, because that's, to me, what a big part of bringing that, what is considered, masculine, that level of strength and assertiveness. We need to have that with one another if we want to change. And you know what? If you feel guilt or shame around talking about other people the ways that some men do, yeah, you should. It's kind of the point. That's literally your emotions telling you how you need to start to do things differently, because your tribe is not accepting you. And if that drives you to a worse tribe, well, great, because eventually there's just going to be less. And the more that we can align as men to hold each other accountable, to genuinely do better, to expect more of one another in terms of how we just show up for ourselves first, and then how we're able to equate that in the ways that we're able to treat and connect and have compassion for and empathy for, and just not see any other type of people as something to be belittled or objectified. We get to do better. So, yeah, I would just challenge you to just layer into that and share where you're at, because it is a hard conversation to have, and depending on what rooms are like or who those people are, there are a million reasons why it's difficult. And that's a really important part, is to talk about how you do it when it's difficult, or also lean into the vulnerability of, this is really fucking hard, so how can we do it differently, so that as a team, if we want to call ourselves that, right? If we're going to make the locker room an analogy, well, let's get some more fucking captains on this team that hold each other accountable to fucking having a championship fucking season, as opposed to, well, we've already lost this one, so I guess we might as well all just be sacks of shit. I don't want that. Doesn't sound like you want that. And I know there are a lot of other men out there who don't. So, well, yes, all men are capable of and have likely done shit like this. I know I have. I'm not in any way dismissing it. We have to do it differently, and we have to have conversations around how that's happening, what works and what doesn't, so that we can better support each other in this change.